Hello, Roses! I hit 100 subscribers, and I filmed a super awesome 100 subscribers special. I decided to call it Food for Thought, and I got 100 mozzarella sticks, and my friend Melissa.
On camera, your plate looks the same as mine.
Not really.
Just stack yours up more on the front, Melissa.
And we ate mozzarella sticks and talked about some cool mental health topics. And then I realized that my microphone wasn't working properly. Unfortunately, a lot of the hilarious bloopers and clips are just completely unusable because the audio is so bad. But fortunately, the important audio where we talked about some controversial mental health topics was okay. I will say this video is a lot longer than normal, but I felt like because of our different opinions on the topics, it was important not to cut anything out from our discussions. So here is Food for Thought. Quiet on set! Look at the camera. That way you're gonna stare into their soul. So you know, I start every video saying, "Hello, Roses." Yes. So we're gonna be cheesy and say that together.
Is this RuPaul's Drag Race?
Laura Tries Drag. That's my second channel. Laura Tries Drag.
Can I do it with you?
Sure, of course.
I'm pretty much in drag right now.
Okay, so we have to be like super cheesy and uppity and happy, and at the same time say, "Hello, Roses!" Like super enthusiastic. To the camera. Ready?
Love to the camera.
Don't make love to the camera.
No,
Hello, Roses.
well, I got a dick between my legs, so it's one
Oh, barely.
Oh my lord. Damaged goods are still goods.
Okay, so first I gotta thank them for my 100 subscribers.
Yes, because that's what the main point is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alright. First of all, before we start, thank you guys so much for 100 subscribers. As you know, my channel is about mental health stuff, right? So in keeping with that, I came up with a list of some questions for us to discuss while we eat our obscene amount of mozzarella sticks. So we are now in our second half hour.
Look at my cheekbones. Apparently I have them.
We're gonna start off easy. First question.
So sorry, even though this is what we're looking at, it's actually filming us, right?
Yes,
Okay.
it is filming us. You don't need to look over here at all. And you don't necessarily have to look at the camera. You can just talk to me if you're more comfortable with that. I'm sure they would be.
Hey.
So, all right.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, so we're
talking to you, and they're good. And we're
okay. Don't stare at me like that, though. Okay. All right. So we're gonna start off easy. So our first question, in your own words, what is mental health?
Like anxiety,
Like
depression,
no,
like those things.
Not what is mental illness. Like, how would you describe mental health? Like, if you were in good mental health, what would that mean?
Okay, like so, I guess like being confident and happy and feeling secure, like it's something. like
Yeah,
that, where it's like
yeah.
you feel- Okay, all right. Okay.
Good.
Yes.
Good. Okay. Yeah. So I mean, I think the same. It's just feeling confident enough to be yourself and
Yeah,
just
happy.
you're happy and you're not
secure.
Yeah. Secure is the
Comfortable.
word.
Comfortable.
Yeah. Continue eating while we're doing
Yes,
this.
right.
Don't forget.
Yes.
Don't forget.
Oh,
I
yeah.
bought 100 fucking matcha sticks. We better eat them.
It
I'll
actually
help you
tastes
there.
better cold.
They're not bad cold. Why do you think there's such a stigma around mental illness?
I think people. I feel like people are busy and they'd rather just push it aside than deal with it. I think that a lot of the time they're like, "Oh no, you're fine. You're just being silly," or people that don't get it don't get it. I think if you don't know, then you're just like, you're just being ridiculous, and it really is actually fine, and you should just deal with it and carry on. But you can't.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think for a lot of people, it's just a matter of, they don't want to accept that people they know have mental illness. They don't want to accept it or believe it, because you don't want to see someone going through something like that, right? So it's just easier to brush it off and pretend it's not a problem.
Well, I think if you don't know, if you've never been in that position, it's hard to understand. You just think, okay, you're having a bad day, so it'll be fine tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not like that, right?
Yeah. So this next one, a little bit controversial, but that's why it's in here. I'm interested to know your opinion. I have a firm opinion on this. What is your opinion on the use of medical marijuana to treat anxiety, depression, PTSD, things like that?
In my opinion, I think it's great. I think it 100% does and would. I think that it's a better route to take as opposed to like prescription drugs. I personally feel like for sure marijuana is like a pretty good answer to a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't have a prescription per se, but I smoke weed, and I found it does help my anxiety definitely. My depression too, a little bit, but it's mostly an anxiety thing. Like if I've had a really, really crappy day and I'm just feeling overwhelmed, and I go and smoke some weed, and then you just, you relax. It calms you down.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely think there's a million health benefits to marijuana. Like I've seen, you've all seen those videos on Facebook of people treating seizures with like marijuana,
sure.
cannabis oil, stuff like that.
Oh yeah, like oil, and like, even in animals that have arthritis, and like
they were treated animals.
Oh yeah, like my friend, she's got the CBD drops or whatever it is, and she gives them to her dog, and she's super sore all the time, and then she gives her the CBD, and she's like, okay, I'm good to go.
Oh wow. I have to say, Caesar dressing with this is really good.
I just did the Caesar. It's delicious. I love cheese.
Okay, this next question was a little bit more serious. So some people have claimed to self-harm or be suicidal only to be labeled by other people as attention-seeking. So what do you think about that?
Well, I feel like there's different levels. I feel like on some level, sometimes people are attention-seeking and they aren't really serious. And they either talk about it for the attention or maybe even attempt it for the attention, and then there's other people that just really do feel that way. And so, I mean, there's different levels. I feel like some people are attention seeking and some people just really do feel that way.
Okay. I kind of disagree in a way. I think that, yes, of course, there's definitely people that do that for attention, but in my head, I feel like anybody that's threatening to take their own life or that's going to hurt themselves for attention, there has to be some form of mental illness underlying there. If you're desperate for attention, there's something going on. You're not being heard.
Yeah, no, for sure. I get that. Yes, but I think that's like, yes, maybe so. There is an underlying problem that they have, but still, they could still be wanting the attention, but not actually wishing it, to follow through.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so next question is actually it's inspired by a comment someone left on my last video. So they were saying something along the lines of they feel that some people, if they're feeling depressed enough or whatever they're suffering with, if they're suffering enough from their mental illness, that they should be allowed to seek assisted suicide. So in some states it's legal. It's not in Canada. But do you think that in cases of mental health, physicians should be allowed to help someone end their life if they so choose?
I don't think in that case. I'm not sure what the laws are in certain states for assisted suicide, but I feel like there are certain boundaries. Like if you're just young and sad, as opposed to you're super old and you have cancer and you're gonna die soon anyways. Like, I think that if you're super old or you're extremely ill, like physically ill, not mentally ill, then yes, I think assisted suicide is good. Like your body is deteriorating, or if you can't speak or you can't see or you can't move and you're just waiting for the inevitable, I think that in that case assisted suicide is a good idea. Like it's not going to get any better, and you don't want to suffer anymore. But I feel like if you're younger and it's just a mental health issue, that, I mean, in this day and age, there's so many options for you to get help and feel better, that assisted suicide for somebody like that, I feel like no.
I think if someone asked me this question, like, even just a year ago, I was in a bad enough place that I probably would have said I do think it should be allowed. But after having been through some shit recently, and that's the one S word that I'm not going to beep out, I think that it is a very regrettable thing, especially in cases for mental health. Like, because you have a mental illness, you're oftentimes not in your right mind when you try to make that call.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I mean, of course, I imagine, I don't know all the facts on how it works, but I imagine there's like some kind of assessment that physicians do before they decide if you can be assisted. But even so, when it comes to like mental illness, I feel like it shouldn't be allowed, but I also kind of feel like, as opposed to what you said, like you said, there's lots of resources for help and stuff. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think there are a lot of improvements that could be made on the mental health system, and that maybe if those improvements were made, people wouldn't feel like suicide was their only option.
Right. But I also feel like some people, when they're going through that there could be a million different resources and a million different people that are reaching out to them and saying, it's okay, I'm here, you can talk to me if you need help. But sometimes they don't want it. They just feel so alone that they don't even want to take this step for the help that is available, because they don't want to take that step. But it's there, but they feel like it's not actually, or
I think, yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, like, I would agree with that. Like, there was a point when I didn't want help for anything. I just flat out refused it. I wouldn't even consider seeing a therapist or a psychologist. I didn't want to take any pills. I really did want to be miserable. But at the same time, it's kind of like, a lot of times when people do try to get help and they're ignored, and then when they get to that point of not wanting help anymore, and then people start to care, and then people start to reach out to them, but they've already been ignored for so long that they're too far gone.
Yes, too little, too late.
Exactly. So in recent years, talking about depression and anxiety has become more common and accepted, but not so much for other mental illnesses like bipolar disorder and schizophrenia and things like that. Why do you think that is?
I don't know.
I just stumped you, didn't I? Do you have an opinion on this
On
question?
that one, yeah.
Alright, come here. Pull up a
No,
chair.
I'm good.
Are you
Do
sure?
it from there. Do it from there. It's fine.
Okay, do it from there. Alright.
Because it's just, I feel like that bipolar, it's treatable, but yet it's still hard to treat. That depression and anxiety and all that, I'm not saying with like medication they're fixable, but like you can take a pill and you're okay.
Like it's more manageable.
It's more, yeah, exactly. And then with the other ones, they're still trying to find something that they can, like the scientists are still trying to find something that they can use. So that's why the society isn't really putting their thought into it.
Okay. Okay.
That could be it.
Like, I think it does definitely have a lot to do with depression and anxiety being so common. But that being said, a few years ago, you wouldn't have thought depression and anxiety were common at all. But I think now it's just a matter of, because it's more accepted, more people are coming forward about it. I don't necessarily think that it's more common now than it was a few years ago.
I mean, it's just more common than bipolar. Like, I mean, it's not that it's more people have it now than people did back then. I think that of the mental illnesses, there's less of bipolar than there is depression
This is
and
true.
anxiety. Because I know multiple people that have depression and anxiety, but I only know a couple of people that are bipolar. So, I mean, that's just in my circle, but
Mm-hmm.
I think just less people have it.
Depression has been like becoming a big. It's been more open.
Yeah.
Like there's
But-
just studies showing that kids nowadays,
Yeah.
elementary kids, are starting to give depression signs, in which years back, the same kid, same age, there's nothing.
Yeah.
Right.
That it's just because of so much is going on. You don't know what's going on in the background. You don't know what they might have suffered, and it's gonna start affecting them.
I feel like there is and always was a lot more of a stigma around mental illnesses like bipolar disorder and schizophrenia because they're more unpredictable than depression and anxiety, and
Yeah.
someone with that is a little more prone to outbursts and stuff, and so it's
Yeah.
scarier. So people, like, if I had schizophrenia and I told someone I had schizophrenia, I would I would expect them to be a little bit taken aback and be a little more cautious around me because there is a stigma around it. All of us except Fernando have given up on eating the Mozza sticks. Alright, so this question, it's a little tricky trying to figure out how to phrase it, so I'm going to do my best. Should mental illnesses be treated and talked about the same way that physical illnesses are?
No.
Like, would you say that depression, for example, is up there with like cancer
No.
or something?
No.
No.
I feel like in some form they're connected. Like if you have cancer, you could then become depressed because that's depressing. But
It's
You
hard
can't-
to talk
you
about,
can't
isn't it? It's
compare.
hard to phrase it.
You can't
yeah, you
compare
can't-
to be like, for example, my mom has cancer, and then I have depression. Like, I can't be, the doctor can't be like, okay, they're both equal,
Okay.
right?
well,
Because they're not.
but there's so
Okay,
many levels.
But I see that's the thing. There's so many levels, right? Like obviously cancer is this horrible, horrible disease to go through. My grandma's going through it right now, right? And she's in a lot of pain and she's suffering. She can barely walk. But if you have someone who has crippling depression
Yeah,
and all they want to do is die and they don't want to leave their house or they're starving themselves or something like that, would you not say they're at least on a similar level?
if it's that
Because-
extreme, then
You
yes, I
know,
suppose,
because they're all illnesses. It's just one affects your body and one affects your mind, right?
yeah, there's depression. There's people walking around every day doing so many things and suffering from depression, but you'd never know it. And then
Mhm.
there's people that cannot even get out of bed,
Yeah.
suffering from depression. So there's, I suppose, the most extreme level of depression could be similar to being, bedridden due to a physical illness. In that form, I suppose they're similar, but in general, I guess they're not. But in the extreme, they are.
Now, does your opinion on that change if I said instead of comparing cancer and depression, we were comparing, say, cancer and schizophrenia? Then would you think that should be treated and talked about the same as a physical illness like cancer?
It doesn't feel like it should.
No?
Because you can be schizophrenic, but you're still out there, right? You still leave, you still walk around, you still do stuff. But with an extreme depression, you can't do anything. Like, depending on the severity, like, it feels different.
Okay. What do you think? Do you think it makes...
I don't know. It's a difficult question. Fuck.
It's fine. It's gonna shift, apparently.
It's a difficult question because as well, the doctors got to think about everyone's different. Everyone takes everything differently, right?
Definitely.
Like they could have a really bad depression, but you can also, I don't want to say overcome it because I don't want to be the person that be like, oh, you'll get over it kind of thing.
Yeah.
But like, there are ways that you can be like, hey, you know what, like, I can try today. Like today I'll try. I'm like, okay, that won't happen. Tomorrow I'll try. Or like tomorrow's gonna happen. Tomorrow will be a better day. With cancer, unfortunately, like depending on what stage and where you're at, there might not be.
So, right. See, in that sense, to me, I feel like they are more similar than we give them credit for because, like you just said, there's different stages to cancer, the same as there's different stages to depression. And like with schizophrenia, some people, like you said, they can go and walk around and be okay, but there's other people who have it so bad, like medication doesn't seem to help and they can't work because they can't hold down a job. They can't hold stable relationships because of it. And then that can lead to depression or anxiety and other mental illnesses. Right?
That's true, yes.
Yeah.
My feet smell good.
Totally off topic.
Your feet?
Well, on the segue of Fernando's fresh feet, we're on our very last question. Hollywood often portrays mental illnesses in their movies. For example, there was bipolar disorder was seen in Silver Linings Playbook, and more recently, Split, that movie about the serial killer. He had dissociative personality disorder, which used to be multiple personality disorder. Do you think that Hollywood having mental illnesses in movies like that, do you think that is doing more to raise awareness of these mental illnesses, or does it further stigmatize them?
When you watch a movie, their job is to make you feel like you're there, like you're part of it, like you're watching it and you're supposed to absorb it, I suppose, right? Like while watching it. So I feel like that, yes, people that have no idea otherwise could watch the movie and that was a really good movie and actually, take in what was happening to that person and what it might be like for somebody that, if you don't know anyone, somebody who doesn't know anybody around them that has a mental health issue, then you have no idea, other than when you watch a movie like that and all of a sudden now you're like, oh, that's what it's like. Whereas if you know people that do, then you're sort of part of it and you've seen it around you, you're somewhat familiar. But if you have no idea and you watch a movie, then at least you have some idea. So I guess in some way it's a good thing. I think it does bring awareness to the people that have never been exposed to it.
I see where you're coming from, but my issue for people that don't know anyone that has mental illness and then they go and they see these movies where things are often completely dramatized and just over exaggerated, they might get an impression of a mental illness that isn't totally accurate, right? Like if you saw Split, have you seen Split? Have you seen Split? Okay, so he had dissociative personality disorder. For his character to be that extreme where all of these people, personas inside his mind were battling with each other to kidnap these girls and sacrifice them. You know, for someone who's never heard of dissociative personality disorder to go and see that, I would think that might terrify them of ever actually meeting someone who had it.
That's where I think that it depends. Like, that's a good question. It's a difficult question, but it depends on the movie.
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah,
like
definitely.
you just said, Split, I found that's more of a thriller, more of a, holy crap.
Yeah.
It's not realistic, more like, I'm gonna take it away from, like, the whole Split personality. Other diseases or, like, other types. For example, this really cheesy, girly movie called A Walk to Remember.
I know, I can remember.
It's the same thing, you know, like, she had leukemia.
Yeah.
It's more of it's more of a love story, but, like, it paints a bit more realistic.
That's it for this video, Roses. I hope you guys enjoyed it despite the length. As always, you guys know if you need someone to reach out to, you can comment down below or you can email me. My email's in the description. I'm always here to talk. I hope you guys liked this video, and if you did, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys sometime next week. Bye! My voice cracked there. Bye!